everybody, this is Preeti. I am so glad you're joining me. Today's video is a part of the Meraki Cheer 2 April release, and I'm using this stamp set called Always in My Heart, and I'm using this wreath here which has these two beautiful birds sitting inside the wreath, but I'm going to alter the stamp a bit by using masking. This is a masking paper which has a little sticky back, which is not a very strong sticky, so you can use it for masking. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that masking paper and put it in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp just those birds on that masking paper. There are plenty of masking papers in the market, so you can definitely use any of the masking paper you may have in your stash. I happen to have this roll of masking paper here, and then I'm just going to stamp that using some black ink, and then I'm going to cut this. Now when you're cutting these birds, you don't necessarily have to cut it very close to the line, except in the place where the bird is sitting on those flowers or leaves. Other places you can actually just do a rough cut and you will be fine. And I will show you ways to alter that wreath to make it look full, because there will be a gap when we mask. You'll see as we move on. And here you can see I've cut these two birds, and they're not really perfect, as I said. And then I'm just taking this cardstock here. Now this cardstock is a Stonehenge cardstock, which is very good for color pencils. Now you can use any you can use Nina Solar White 110 pound for color pencils as well. But I feel like the Stonehenge paper works really well. Even a Bristol Smooth paper would work pretty well for your color pencils. And here what I'm doing is I'm going to place that mask that we created on those birds. I then realized very quickly here that I need to separate these birds in the center. Only then I can have them place them perfectly on those birds. And once I have them placed, I have masked that area completely, and all I'm going to do is take my ink pad once more, and here I'm using Altenews Obsidian Black ink, which is perfectly fine when you are using your color pencils. And then I'm just going to stamp this. But before I stamp this, I'm making sure there's no ink anywhere. I didn't get any, but just a tiny bit on that on that little tail. And then I'm just going to stamp. And once I remove, you can see there's no birds, but that is an empty space. So this stamp set also has individual flowers and leaves, which are exactly the same size of some of the flowers on this wreath. So I've just created another mask for one of the flowers in this stamp set using that additional stamps that come in the stamp set. And then I'm just going to stamp a bunch of leaf, filling up that empty space where the bird was. I didn't get so when I cut those birds, remember there were some of the flowers that were behind the leaves, behind the birds. So I just completed that flower. They're very simple flowers, and I just added, completed the flowers using a black pen. Here, when I stamped the tiny flower, I didn't stamp it well, so I'm just again using my black pen to finish off that flower. And then I'm going to just repeat adding a few more flowers. So there's one, so I'm adding another larger flower, which is exactly the same one on the left side that I have masked. And again, I'm just finishing off the flowers that did not get stamped or were behind the birds initially. I'm just going to add another flower in that empty space, and you can see how that wreath is filling up. And then in that another small, I also added a few berries underneath that flower to finish up the gap. And you can see here I'm just trying to explain it once more. I have added that a flower there, and then used a black pen to finish it off. And then that's a tiny flower that was stamped there, and then the larger flower which looks exactly like the one that was originally in the wreath, which is also in the stamp set, and then those additional berries. Now that everything was done, you can see how the wreath looks full. Now I am going to color, and for coloring I am using my Prisma color pencils, and there's a lot of colorings, and as I don't know if you know, I do have carpal tunnel, so I can't really do these colorings all in one go. So actually this card took me almost a week to finish, and I'm not kidding you. It took me a week to finish this card because I couldn't color all of them together. But for this video, what I did is every time I colored one of the flowers, I did take the video to show how I did it. I mean, I showed you not one of the flowers actually. I took the video showing individual flowers that I colored in different shades, and then after that it took me 3 days to finish off the entire wreath, which we'll talk about as we move on. And here you can see I added this pink flowers, and then for a pink flower, and I repeated that pink for all the flowers that look just like that. And then for the leaf I added some green colors. Now I will have these colors pencil, what I've used for each of them, in the description box below if you're interested in using the same colors if you were to make this card by yourself, or if you want to use these colors to color any other flowers from the Crafty Meraki sets. Crafty Meraki has plenty of floral, or even their critters would work beautifully with these color pencils or any kind of mediums that you use. Now this release does have a few floral stamps, a wreath and another floral stamp, and beautiful die sets which I do plan to use in my future videos, and you will see that, so stay tuned. And here I'm adding another pink flower, but this pink flower is a little lighter than the other one, so just removing the darker colors from the combination of the large flowers creates a lighter pink flower. And then I'm also using some purple colors or violet colors to create some violet flowers. So there are four different kinds of flowers in this. And this one is I've used this in quite a few of those flowers that look exactly like that. And this is another flower where I used a two-toned effect. So I put yellow on the top tip of the flower, and then I blended it with blue from the bottom. And then for the berries, I just used one single yellowish orange color. And here you can see I have actually completed that wreath over 3 days. That's the completed wreath. Now I just want to color the birds, and for that I've taken another piece of Stonehenge cardstock, and I'm just going to stamp the birds, only the birds, and I'm just going to color them as well using some Prismacolor pencils. And for this I'm using some yellows and some blues. For the bird's head I used canary yellow and jasmine, but soon I realized I needed a little bit more depth, so later on you'll see eventually I come back with a little darker color, which was goldenrod, and added some more shading to it. And for the feather I've used some blue colors, so I went with the darkest in the shadow areas and flicked it downwards, and then I went with a lighter shade. This is light cerulean blue, and then after that I went with, I think, sky blue to blend the bird's feather, and that kind of created a beautiful blue feather for this bird. And then here you can see I'm going to add that goldenrod that I was talking about very soon in the shadow areas, and that kind of created a little more depth under the belly of the bird, I mean under the wing of the bird, and also near his beak, her beak, and the eye area. These, I'm in my mind I'm thinking these two are female birds, and you will see why. One is thinking my mom and the other one me, and you will see as this card progresses what I mean by that. So once I've done coloring, all I did was I just fussy cut those birds very close to the black line, and now I want to create a background for these beautiful birds, so a scene for them. So not really a scene. What I did is I just added some background colors, so I kind of gave this a very tropical feel to this card. So I'm creating, I don't know if it's a sunset or just a colorful background. You can, maybe it's a sunset, I don't know. So I've just started off with some purple colors and then some pink, and then I added a little bit of that orangey yellow color, and then the yellow, and then I had to go a second time. Anytime you're using color pencils, remember it's all about additional layers. So it's not about pressing the pencil hard, but it's building those layers that builds the color, and that's why it takes a long time to color with color pencils, and that's why it took me many days to color these color this or create this card, because it did take a long time to color and my hand was constantly hurting, so I had to give my hand a break. Another way to really blend these colors and smoothen them down and to remove the tooth from the paper is to use the blending pencils that Prisma Color makes. And I'm just going to go over, and you can see how it smoothens up the edges and it covers up the tooth. But even for that, you do need a few layers on your cardstock before you can use the blending pen. And then I'm going to do the same little blend, not the same colors, but an aqua color on the outer edge of the wreath, just to give it a very soft blue glow on the outer edge. And for that, I just used two different colors of aqua, a darker shade and a lighter shade, and then blended it out to the white with the white pencil, and then again used the blending pen to kind of create that haze. And now you can see I have, because we altered the stamp, it's so easy for you to place the bird wherever you want, or even remove the bird and just create it a floral wreath, and it'll look beautiful. And I'm taking this stamp from the stamp set called Best Mom Ever, and you can see how I was talking about it. So it's Best Mom Ever, and I'm going to heat set that. I'm going to use some gold embossing powder and heat set that. Well, it wasn't enough for me that this background was looking beautiful already. I wanted to add some bokeh effect to it. So I just took some white pencil and added some dots in various sizes, some large, some small. You could have stopped with the wreath and this would have looked beautiful, but yeah, even with the pain, I think I can never do something simple. I need to learn to do something simple anyway. So I've added those bokeh dots there, and then all I did is before I added the birds, actually, here I've just taken some foam adhesive and I'm just adding it behind these birds. And you'll see very soon I had to remove one of the birds after I adhered it because I needed to add the additional sentiment. So here I'm just going to add one of the birds, and then very soon I'm getting there. So here I went ahead and adhered that and the other bird too. And now it was time to add the additional sentiment. And for that, what I did was I took an older mom set. It says "Love You, Mom," and I'm using this sentiment which says "Can't wait to hug you," and that's why I wanted these birds to be separated. And you can see here where I had to remove that bird because I needed to place that sentiment and I wanted the bird to sit over the sentiment. So once I've removed it, place the sentiment also has foam adhesive behind it, and then I put the bird on top of that sentiment, and that makes so much more sense to me. And then I'm just going to place the second bird. So now it says "Best Mom Ever, can't wait to hug you." And then all that was left to do was add some sparklies, and for that I'm using some Crafty Meraki magic gems here, and I'm just doing a scattering of them, some inside the wreath and some on the outer edges of the wreath, kind of filling up the wreath a bit more if there were any empty spaces. And all that was left to do was add this card to the note card. I don't know if I told you earlier, the note card that I've created is 5 by 7, so it's a bigger card because I wanted the entire wreath to be seen. And then the colored the page on which the flower the bird wreath is, it is cut at 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And here you can see the finished card, how beautiful it looks and how easily we could alter these cards. And I hope you will give these altering the stamps with your masking a go. And also don't forget to check out the Crafty Meraki store. I have the link below in the description box below for all the beautiful new products that has been released in this Crafty Meraki Cheer 2 April 2022 release. I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.